I got a bit of a thorn in my side. I am not coming to you in the best of spirits, of which I fully blame on none other than Ariel Helwani. So I just had a conversation with Ariel. We were doing Ariel and the Bad Guy in ESPN Plus, and he infuriates me. He infuriates me at times where I have a hard time speaking and responding. I almost can't lower my IQ enough to engage in a conversation of thought with him. I like Ariel. This is not a bare Ariel session, but he still pisses me off whether I like him or not. And the topic had come up about Thug Rose going over to Brazil to take on a Brazilian challenger for her title. And Ariel voiced to me how much he did not like this idea for Rose, that she has been out for X amount of time, and now she's got to go to Brazil, and there'll be 45,000 people, and they'll all be cheering against her, and blah, 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 and she shouldn't have taken the fight. That just annoys me. That annoys me on so many different levels, particularly from the fact that this is a show. It is show business. The show must go on. And when you come at this from a perspective that everything needs thought and overthought and discussed and what is best for me, and how can I, as the athlete trying to gain ground in my career, go and make the right moves and give myself the best opportunity to win, that's infuriating. And while that may sound like that makes sense, it doesn't, and it's annoying. And I'll give you the answer in short. Should Thug Rose be stacking the deck against herself and it's insurmountable and she can't climb that mountain, then guess what? She loses and she drops the strap. That's the sport and that's the business. And it doesn't need overthought any more than that. And this is nothing about Thug Rose, FYI. I know she listens to the show and I do not want her to misinterpret my words here. She just happens to be the athlete that we were discussing. And every single time that a fight gets announced, and somebody wants to sit down and talk about talking and meet about meeting, it is infuriating to me. Okay? And there always seems to be two schools of thought here. And the promoter always seems to be the scumbag in the room. The promoter is always the liar. Now, the fighter cannot go through with his obligation. The fighter cannot go through with his responsibility. The fighter cannot go through with his commitment, but he's never the liar and he's never the scumbag. It always falls onto the promoter. And there always seems to be a narrative that the promoter told me and the promoter didn't follow through with it. I can't tell you how many times I have read this book and seen this movie. There seems to be need to be a coming to the minds of the promoter to come out and tell the people. And look, Vince McMahon did a very good job with this. And perhaps Scott Coker and Dana White and Bob Arum and Don King, perhaps they haven't done it yet. And maybe they just need to do what Vince did, which is to come out openly and say, the only thing I'm ever going to give you is an opportunity, and that's it. Whatever you do with it, you do with it. I'm moving on with business. Either way, I will give you an opportunity to come along for as long as you can. But that's it. Where I go with this is, look, information is only true when I give it to you. If I'm the promoter, if I'm the executive producer, it's good until I get a better offer. And I don't feel that I need to tell that to you. I'm going to assume that you know that. I have a show to make. I have a responsibility, not to you, but to the fans. Not to you, but to the people that show up in the office every single day. And there seems to be a disconnect, a major disconnect from the fighter who says he wants to be here, who is a volunteer army, who was not drafted, who worked his way up and begged for the opportunity that he finally got. Something changes once he gets that opportunity. I don't know what in the hell it is. I don't know what I just see it happen. But there does seem to be a disconnect from that athlete who is going to be given by his boss, who is going to pay him a livable, earnable, handsome wage. 362 days a year off. The fighter is going to be given a contract with a livable wage. 362 days off. He is going to be called upon 3 days a year to work. The promoter has to work 7 days a week. The promoter does not get a day off. And you will always hear these arrogant pricks that want to come out and go, I work 365, 24/7. No, you don't. Shut up with all that. Sometimes when you're doing international business like Scott Coker or Dana White does, it's true. There are some parts of the world that don't even know what days Hanukkah fall on. There are some parts of the world that do not understand that December 25th in America is a recognized holiday. Just by example, when you're doing international business, you literally don't get a day off. So when you're in the office and you're grinding it out and you're moving forward and you've got commitments, you've got venues, books, and tickets on sale and marketing going out, and somebody you're doing business with that you have a contract with who you pay a livable wage to is only having to work 3 days a year, to be told on one of those 3 days that you call them, or 2 of those 3 days, or with some of these athletes, all 3 of those 3 days, no, doesn't work for me, can't do it, don't want to do it, change the opponent, change the date, I don't feel good, this, that, and the other thing. It's infuriating, and people are going to get their feelings hurt. Somebody is going to come out of that thing feeling like they were lied to. So allow me to speak for the promoters of the world that don't need me to speak for them, but allow me to right now. As the biggest show in MMA, allow me to take the obligation and the time to inform you. Whatever I tell you is true at the moment I tell you, with the caveat that it will change as soon as I get a better offer. The moment a better idea comes, a more marketable idea that makes better sense in a sport that does not have a season, that plays 52 weeks in a 52-week calendar year. So things change extremely quickly. We do not sit down ahead of time and figure out the schedules. The Ravens are playing the Rams 3 Sundays from now, and the Patriots are taking on the Eagles. And then we're going to go into a playoff. No, it's not preset. The landscape changes. I would expect you guys to know that. I would not come out and tell you this because I would not think that I have to. I would assume that you know that. I would assume that you would be a team player. And I would assume that when you have a job that you begged for with a company that you wanted to be at, and it comes with terms that you get 362 days a year off, that you show up for work on those 3 days, on time, every time, with a smile on your face. I would assume that. And if you think the promoter's a prick for having that assumption, you're wrong. You're the one that's wrong. Things are going to change, and if you want to navigate and you want to politic and you want to strategize and you want to outthink these moves, then make sure you keep in mind that if you are fighting 3 times a year, once every 4 months on average, you are going to get a phone call. Do your politicking not when that call comes, not after that call comes, but before it comes. I will tell you right now, and I don't mean to come to you as the brainiac know-it-all that knows everything, but since 2011, I have never had a fight, ever, that wasn't a main event in a sold-out arena that I picked before my phone ever rang. I do not mean to personalize this and act like, Chael's got all the answers. But it is Chael talking to you, and I want to come to you with a level of credibility of telling you this is the way that it works. Up until 2011, I sat back, I let my phone ring. I did what they had in mind. I then realized the strategy of influencing them before the phone ever rings. That is your time to do it. If you want to go out and do media, if you want to go to social media, if you want to get something going or pick something or help to steer your own career, do it ahead of time. Once that phone rings, that means you didn't do a good job with your decision-making and your planning and your strategy, so you're going to do it the boss's way. That's the business, that's the agreement, and that's fair. The promoter can't always be the scumbag when the promoter is the one working 365 days a year. I have had Scott Coker call me before. Say, Chael, what do you think about doing this? Very nice way for him to present it to me. What do you think about it? Very nice. for him to make me feel as though I'm part of it. Well, Scott, how far along are we on this process? Well, we've got a venue booked. We've got an entire team. We've got a lease on 2 different buildings of an office space that's full with marketing people and PR people and a legal team and everything that you could need to have a huge business like this moving forward. And we're just looking for a main event. We got you under contract. Well, excuse me, Scott. Well, then, yes, I'm in. What, I'm gonna screw everybody because I don't feel like doing it? Not for nothing, but I kind of expected this phone call. I fight 3 times a year. Haven't fought in a little bit. Was waiting for you to call. What, I'm going to act like Johnny surprised when my phone lights up and it says Coker? Well, gee, Scott, what are you calling for? What do you want? Oh, my God, a fight? Oh, I had never considered that. Gee, let me sit down with my team and think about nothing. I'm like the United States Marines. I'm looking for a fight. I'm in the fight business. I want a fight to break out. Yeah, thank you very much for the call. Next time, save yourself a dime. Shoot me a text. We have a contract. We don't have anything to talk about. I'm not coming back and renegotiating with you. We have a contract. Good or bad or indifferent, a deal's a deal. Give me somebody to fight. I don't know where that attitude's been lost. In real sports, it's there. People want to talk about, oh, yeah, MMA is mainstream. Well, apparently it's not mainstream, guys. Apparently there's a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of interest in MMA, but apparently it's not mainstream. Okay? Brett Favre didn't sit down before every Sunday and try to renegotiate his contract. Well, you know, we're playing over there in Atlanta today, and they got 10,000 more tickets to sale, and we're not head-to-head with any college basketball that day. I think our ratings are going to be better. We're probably going to bring in more. I think that merchandise sales are going to be good. I'd like an extra $20,000 to play. It doesn't work that way. It's not how mainstream sports work. They don't chicken out at the last, oh, that's a really hard game. LeBron James is a wimp. LeBron James is a total wimp. LeBron James will play anybody on any game you want to do it. He'll throw his little headband on and walk out there and tip that ball. That's what a mainstream guy does. Nobody sits out the Olympics. There's never been an NCAA tournament in history where the top team or the top player or the top athlete sits it out. Those are real sports. Those are mainstream sports. Apparently, MMA is not ready for that. And apparently, the ones holding it up aren't in leadership. They're in the locker rooms. But it's the locker rooms whose voices get heard. It's the locker rooms that are bitching and pointing the finger and bringing everybody else down. And the people that they're bringing down are working 7 days a week, taking immense risks and succeeding in business and then sharing that, spreading the butter around, taking a socialistic approach where the floor's not that low. And everybody rises up. And the boys in the back that only get called upon 3 times a year, their fans are out slugging it out every day to have the income to part with, to come to the venues and watch. Some of which are in destinations. Some of which they have to fly in to do it. The fans got to get up every day and slug it out. Regardless of the weather, regardless of how they feel, to have the income to part with an athlete who has become entitled and is only asked by legal binding contract to show up for work 3 times a year. Is it really so much to ask from the promoter that when those 3 times come, you do it my way and you show up with a smile on your face? Because that's what LeBron does. And I can sit here and tell you he's a wimp. I can tell you Tiger's a wimp. I think I'm right to do it. But they sack up and walk out there with a smile and happy to compete in their chosen field that they are contracted to do every single time.